imagination, prophecy, enlightenment, and truth. These are the four principles of the Transcendent Worlds. 4 worlds, fitted with galaxies, realms, and planets abound. Who am I, you may ask? I am the mysterious stranger. I will be your guide through these vast worlds. Worlds fitted into these universes. These are the tales that we wish to tell, that I have the honor to share with you. These are the tales of the verse. The unknown. A very strange concept, both abstract and simple. The things that we do not know and either wish to know or fear to realize. The unknown mingles with the truth and curiosity. It is a dark and black fog, impossible to see through, and almost inevitable in all aspects of life. Some fear it, some choose to embrace it, while others are unsure of its great power to influence the mind. For at times, it is the unknown itself that is far greater than the truth. With this said, it is on the planet Tellurian that we find the vastness of the unknown within the depths of the sea. The planet Tellurian was an elemental planet, vast with resources and various biomes, from the coldest winters to the north, to the strongest and mightiest mountains all across the land. Deserts and valleys, forests and fields. But one of the greatest is that of the vast oceans that are all across Tellurian. The oceans stretch for miles across the surface, and they go deep, deep under the waves of the sea. Within them no one truly knows. For many years, even centuries, ships have sailed across. Some have gone lost, missing, never to be found again. Others have trekked the treacherous sea and have voyaged far and wide through storms and through treacherous waters. No one can quite tell what is underneath. Some have seen whales and fish, and some oddly sea creatures. But others have told a tale or two of the odd and peculiar things that dwell beneath the waves. Some have called them mad, even a strange people, saying they are telling of tall tales. But it is all for naught. For they do not truly know what lives underneath. The dark and murky abyss. Others, however, claimed they knew the ocean like the back of their hand, claiming it would be easier to know the ocean than to know a woman. But even then, they would state that an ocean was like a woman. Vast, unknowable, beautiful and dangerous, dark and strange. And indeed, some of these things may have been true. But it was people like Captain Talos who were very confident in their navigational skills, in their skills of strategic maneuvering, and their combative understanding of battle. Indeed, Captain Talos was an experienced man. He had manned 3 ships, all of which had seen battle, several battles in fact, and he had accompanied many ships and many a crew into several wars. Captain Talos served the Union, a collective council that protected several settlements on the far-off shores, all to the islands that they had claimed during these wars. Rebels and raiders and bandits and pirates had fought against the Union and rejected the council. But after these long wars, the rebels finally gave up, and they began to receive peace and accommodation from the council, and saw that life with the Union was not all that bad. However, it left many scarred on both sides, the captain included. He had become hard and rigid, and even stubborn, relying on his wits and his strategy to save him in any situation. However, this was not always the case. In fact, not all of the battles he had fought were always won. 2 in particular were always at the forefront of his mind. The battle at Saranj Island was particularly scarring. He had fought for days there, with the enemy never yielding. It was a ship battle against the island firing several missiles towards the ship. They had caused many a shrapnel to inflict the captain within his flesh. Those wounds still pain him to this day, and any time he feels that something is amiss, he can feel the pain in his back, shoulder, and his lower leg. Yet technologies had changed since then. Warfare had become more elaborate, and the strategy of both them and the enemy had shifted. There were still pirates in the waters, dwelling about, searching for the next ship to raid. And now that technology was even greater, subs were made. The Aestallor Deep, a flanking sub, built with stealth technology and powerful Hyperon torpedoes. These torpedoes could follow heat signatures. What was most impressive about the torpedoes and the sub itself was that they were powered by water that had been plasmatized. It had been imbued with energy as it flowed through the sub and through the torpedoes, quickly electrifying and plasmatizing the water so that it can pressure it and cause it to become more powerful, and that it may become a fuel source to both. This way, the sub could go for miles and miles and miles, lasting for months and years. The torpedoes, built similarly, can also go for miles, but after a while, they lose their strength and the signature decreases. However, the greatest flaw in the Aestallor Deep was its defenses. It had very little, though built with a strong surface, with lining of multiple layers of metal. The sub itself could not take heavy impact, and did not have enough defenses to ward off multiple missiles or torpedoes. Indeed, the only thing it could truly do in a tight situation is maneuver around incoming attacks. Otherwise, it was a sitting duck, waiting to crack. The captain was quite confident in this technology, regardless of its defenses. He was even most especially impressed with his own strategic skill, applying it to the sub. He knew that with the right maneuvering, they could outflank any enemy, underneath the water or above. Yet, the Union was not fully aware if anyone else had this technology or knowledge of it. Some thoughts or ideas were suggested that perhaps others had found out about this idea of the sub, and had created makeshift technology that could propel underwater, but was not fit for battle, or perhaps was not fit for maneuvering. The Union had become quite overzealous and confident in their power to man the seas. And so was Captain Talos. A true patriot to his nation, he believed that the Union had not steered them wrong in thinking that these were the only subs in the water. And if they weren't, he would be the one to bring the rest down.
Sergeant Bellows, full speed ahead. Aye, aye, Captain. Full speed ahead. Aestallor Deep, diving.
The sub began to submerge itself deeper into the waters. They were near the colorful reef, known simply as the Vivid Mirage. The Vivid Mirage was a treacherous coral reef. It seemed to have sharp spikes coming out of it, hard, rocky masses protruding from every direction. And the most fascinating part about the entire reef was that of its sea life. Cerulean eels, blowback fishes, and small, black inky squids. These were of a various kind. These creatures roamed these waters all about throughout the coral reef. Some of them were foreigners, coming from the deep sea life, such as the glow turtles. These creatures came from the dark abyss of the waters, glowing in the dark, which would frighten other fishes. Some sea life, however, are attracted to this, so turtles tend to come up to the coral reef to protect themselves, especially during mating season. Interestingly enough, other sea creatures in these waters would use noises as a way to defend themselves against oncoming predators. Some would use high-pitched shrieks, others loud, monotonous noises, and just a few would use the strangest of sounds. Some were whales, using their wailing noises to not only communicate with other pods of whales, but as well to scare off dangerous creatures in the water. Yet, most sailors never knew what killed these kinds of whales. You see, the whales in Tellurian were very much different from the whales on, well, your own world. These whales had giant, large, protruding, bone-like spikes coming out of their foreheads. Their bones seemed to grow into their flesh, forming a strange kind of protrusion that would only be seen as bone-like or rock-like, and it would almost seem like it grew on the surface of the whales, but it truly came from their bone structure from beneath. The marrow, the flesh, fusing as one and becoming a strange protrusion, the whales used this as a way to ram against large predators. But the largest creatures that, at least, the sailors knew about, or even scientists, was that of hunting sharks. Hunting sharks came in small groups. They would swirl around their prey and then engage in a feeding frenzy. These sharks were no bigger than a tall man. They would bite fast, chew quickly, and their teeth were layers and layers of razor-sharp black teeth. How odd it is that no other sailor nor human being had seen anything larger than the whales in these waters. There were accounts of carcasses floating up onto shore, torn to shreds, and parts of their flesh ripped to pieces as if something ate through it. However, any time these carcasses of whales would come onto shore, many scientists or even engineers would claim that it must have just been a kill from a feeding frenzy by some of the sharks. But the sailors have taken more notice. Something is strange about the waters. something hides deep within. It's unsure if it is something otherworldly, or perhaps just something large and dangerous. Yet, one thing is for certain. Whatever dwells in the waters of Tellurian, it is unknown to those who dwell above.
Captain, we're coming in on the reef. Excellent. Full speed ahead. Slow down a couple paces. Turn on the lights. We need to find that wrecked ship in no time at all.
The ship that Captain Talos was referring to was that of an old armada ship, sunken off the coast of some of the islands. It had gone missing mysteriously. Many speculated that pirates had sunken the ship, that it went down under, hitting the coral reef nearby. However, others are still uncertain that it was a pirate that was responsible. Yet, it was still a mystery. So who's to say what it could be?
First mate, on board!
The doors rolled open. In came walking in a handsome, tall-looking man. He wore a first mate's outfit, blue navy, arrayed with several badges of honor and valor, and a well-cut suit underneath. He bore a white cap with the insignia of the Union upon it, and 3 slashes on the right side of the hat, indicating that he was of high position.
Everything looking good, Captain? Yes. Welcome in, Chief Hobburn.
Captain Talos was an older man. White beard, fainted eyes, and a harsh look in his face. He always looked about him as if he were about to scorn someone for doing something wrong. And at times, he would bring out a smile if he was feeling particularly fancy. But most of the time, he had a harsh look about him.
Please, Hobburn, come to my side. We have much to talk about,
the captain said. Hobburn took a few steps to the left of the captain and stood out looking through the glass that viewed into the waters of the deep sea.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Indeed, indeed. Why didn't I ask you to come up here to gaze at the waters before us? Oh, I have wished for your report on the crew and to inform you on our recent developments.
Developments, sir?
Indeed, Hobburn. I believe we are very close to finding that ship.
That's great news, sir.
But what makes you think that... Well, you see, Hobburn, every time I feel a feeling, strong feeling, good feeling, feel a bit of that shrapnel right in my right shoulder. Hobburn looked at the captain, somewhat concerned, but playing along with his zeal and excitement, said,
I see, sir.
Bit of that sixth sense word?
Indeed, yes, Hobburn. Very good.
Yes, it is that sense within me. Intuition speaking back to me. I always trust that shrapnel. Good feelings, bad feelings, does not matter. I feel that we are getting close.
And I almost forgot. I must introduce you to our new navigations officer, Gwyn Held.
Hobburn turned to his left. There, at one of the navigational panels, where radar detected any movement going about near the sub, a young man with black slicked hair and a tall, broad shoulder turned over and looked back at Hobburn.
It is a pleasure to have you on board now.
Pleasure's all mine, Captain. Just doing what the captain needs. Now, I must get back to work.
He quickly looked back at the scanner, fixed on it, like a bird hunting for its prey. What did I tell you, Harbin? He's as sharp as a tack, and as hard as a tool. He'll do fine here. I believe so, sir. Now, you wished for the report? Yes. I can tell you more about the ship in a moment, but I'd love to know how the crew is doing. What is the status of the crew? Harbin, for a moment, gathering his thoughts, did not speak. But after a minute or two, he spoke up and said, "The crew is doing reasonably fine. Rations are at a good portion, and we believe we'll be able to last out here for another 6 to 8 weeks. Very good. And the mental state of the crew?" For a while, Harbin said nothing. He had recalled having a conversation with Officer Downs, the officer who took good reckoning over the crew. He made it his mission to always make sure that the crew was in good health, good spirits, and always rallied behind the captain. However, in recent weeks, Officer Downs had been losing his more sharper personality. Well, to say it plainly, Captain, I'm a bit concerned for the crew. We've been out here quite long, and being the first mission ever to man one of these subs, we're not fully... We aren't fully? The captain asked. They are not fully adept nor equipped for being in a sub for this long. The captain, looking at Harbin with a strong left eye, with a brow raised, he slowly turned back towards the glass bulb, peering out into the ocean. Well, Harbin, you inform the crew that if they have any concern with my methods, or that of the sub, they may take it up with the unit. Sir, I think that it would be wise to... Be wise? Harbin, I have gave you an order. It's best you take it. I know that the crew is concerned, and I know that you are concerned for them. I wish for you to make sure that Officer Downs is taking care of his position. Now, go inform the crew of these tidings. I want them prepped and ready for combat. Combat, sir? Harbin looked at the captain fearfully. Do you really think that we'll engage in combat? Yes, I do. I don't care if the enemy has acquired information on any sub-technology, or if they have a ship out in these waters. I want us ready and prepped. Even if we are attacked by a glowback whale. Or I mean, a glowback turtle. Harbin looked at the captain for a moment. He did not seem to be at his full wits, mistaking a whale for a turtle, though a minor thing, seemed to be something that could be more fatal later on. Yes, sir. Turtle, it is. Yes. I know my creatures in these waters. I have swum them all my life, sailing above and high. This time we will conquer the deep, as much as we have conquered the surface, Harbin. Now, as I was saying, I wish for this crew to be ready and manned for combat. I don't care what we face. Aye, Captain. Chief Harbin left the main corridor. Returning back to his quarters, he walked down a long metal tunnel. There were circular windows down the hall, several, peering out into the deep waters, and they could get a good sight of the reef nearby. Harbin always enjoyed getting a good view of the ocean floor. As he passed each window, he took one small glance, looking at the sea life, and then returning and looking down the hall. However,
as he passed the second to the last window nearby the exit to the hallway, he noticed something very peculiar. Is that a man? Stans thought. He peered out through the window just a little bit closer. To his eyes, he thought he could see a man swimming out into the waters. It was only a faint silhouette, and whoever this man was, he seemed to move with excellent speed, weaving in and out of the rocky floor of the reef. And as he looked closer, he could almost spot Chief! To his left, and to his surprise, Officer Downs stood before him. Officer Downs had brown, long hair. It was unkempt, and he looked a bit shabby. He wore a brown coat with a fur lining, and he wore under it a white V-necked shirt. It was a bit worn for wear, and as well his pants, though the most formal part about him, had large smudges of grease and oil upon them. Chief, I need to talk to you. Auburn turned to Officer Downs. What is it now, Trapper? Well, you spoke with the captain? He did. What of it? What did he say about the concern of the crew? Well, you see, for a moment Auburn did not know what to say. But as he gathered his wits, he stood more straight and replied, Officer Downs. Oh, you're calling me Officer Downs now. I see things have just gotten serious. Trapper, listen carefully. The captain is on a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure? Pressure on what? Does he not have time for his crew because he's hunting down a mysterious missing ship? Officer Downs, you need to remember your place. Trapper, please, calm yourself down. Just come to my quarters. We'll talk about this. For a moment, Officer Downs looked out the window himself. Peering out there with a startled gaze, he said, All right, but you best bring out that tonic of yours, because I'm in need of a fix. Auburn and Downs had been good friends since the start of the voyage. Auburn had always been more of the voice of reason, while Downs, though a bit prickly, was a man who was a voice for the people, a voice for the crew. He cared very much for their state and well-being. Auburn did as well. However, his take on things was often that of still relying on the rules, the authority, the laws and bylaws, remembering the place of each person's position, and always making sure that everyone was kept well. Now tell me this, Auburn. How long did it take you to talk with the captain and get any word across his daft ears? Well, it's not as long as you thought, perhaps. The captain is quite reasonable. Quite reasonable. Then why can't I meet with him? He's busy. You know this, Stans. You know this. Come on, Stans. You know as well as I, the captain has an itchy finger. Maybe not on the trigger, but on the firing of his missiles. He's still war-bound. I almost swear that I hear screams coming from his room. Those aren't screams. He's just practicing strategies. Sometimes he'll scream out, remembering one of his old battles and saying one of his old charges. Is that all? Downs took a large gulp of his tonic, taking it all down in one sip. Auburn looked at him, so surprised and shocked. He knew that this bottle was not going to last for long. Now, take it easy there, Downs. This drink wasn't meant to be taken in one sitting. You have to take it in small quantities. I don't care. I used to drink like this all the time back at the pub off the coast.
always get my fancy. A nice, pretty, red-haired girl would walk in all the time. I believe her name was Ruby or something like that. Had something to do with the colour red. I miss those days. Now, in terms of the crew, I have tried to talk him down a bit. But, Hobburn, I'm very concerned. Stans looked up at Trepper. What do you mean? Well, you see, the boys have been talking. Talking about what? They keep claiming they're seeing things. Things in the water. Things in their mind, their sleep even. I haven't seen anything myself, but it's starting to concern me a bit. Have they ever checked the sub for... their sanity? Sanity? Stans looked up. I'm not quite sure. The scientists and the engineers never did a long voyage like this. This is the longest it's ever been sent out. I think while they were testing it, they only did 5 minutes in the water. 5 minutes? Almost spilling his second drink, and almost spitting out the rest of what he had just sipped, looked up at Stans with both a frightful and concerned look. You must be bloody joking, Hobburn! I mean, Stans, or Chief, or whatever. This is maddening. I tested for 5 minutes and say, oh, it's all go. No leaks or no engine problems, but sanity levels, we don't know anything about that. Hobburn, amused at this, laughed greatly. Oh, my dear Downs, my dear Downs. It's no great concern. Put your mind at ease. The captain has been on many voyages with ships just like this. Just like this? That go underwater? Well, no. But nothing. It is not the same. You see, the difference here is, we are like a fish that has never gone out into the water before. Not only does it not understand the concept of a giant blue ocean, we've been in a pond all our lives. This is like going into another realm. Hobburn continued to look at Downs with a speculative look. Oh, Trapper, this is why I like you. Always questioning things, even if they're just a little bit crazy. Well, how else are you supposed to figure things out? Everything's a bit crazy, isn't it? I mean, taking metal and putting it out on the water? If you really think about it, Hobburn, it is a crazy sight. You could sink with a giant piece of metal, but if you form it just right, somehow, it makes it right on the water. I mean, you also have to have a nice engine and a rudder and a couple of other things, but putting it right shape, you could make a canoe and you could sail out on those waters. Peacefully. Fine. And why is a dinky little metal piece of canoe more safe to you than this militaristic, high-advanced technological sub we're now swimming in? It's probably because we are underwater. We were not meant to go under here. Who knows what's under here? There could be Downs got silent. Hobburn, waiting for a punchline, or even for some sort of crazy reply, inquired, "For what, Trep?" Well, we could run into a whale. A whale. I suppose we could get knocked over by a whale. But this is strong metal. This steel has been bound and wound and, well, melted down into one of its strongest forms. Bound and wound? You don't sound like an engineer at all there. Well, I was never an engineer. But I know these waters well. Maybe not well as Captain Talos, or as he claims, or indeed, as he claims. But I trust the captain, and I trust this mission. So you haven't seen anything odd either, have you? Harbin froze for a moment. He recalled what he had just seen out the window. There had been moments like this, strange shapes moving in the deep. Even close near the reef, where things were much more clear, and the sunlight pierced through the water. He could still remember seeing strange silhouettes in the distance. Ah, so you have seen something. Downs could see that Stans was thinking deeply about the question, something gnawing at his craw. Well, I suppose I have seen things, but nothing to cause madness or to question my own sanity. Perhaps. Quite interesting, though. Indeed. Chief mate to main deck. Chief mate to main deck. Report now. The comms went silent. Harbin, looking at Downs, stood up and with a great big smile said, "Well, this has been a pleasant thing to sit down with you and have a nice drink, but I must return to the main deck. Inform the crew that the captain is engaging in combat. Prep them for battle, and try to be a bit positive with them." Downs looked down at the floor playfully, and then as he peered up with a smirk said, "I'll try my best, Harbin. Just make sure the captain hears our words, and that they don't just go through the mill and out the other." "All right, will do." The two of them parted ways outside of the court. As Harbin continued down the hall, he looked out that window one more time, just to see if he would see that strange silhouette out in the deep. But, not to his surprise, he saw nothing. He continued down the corridor, reaching the main deck in a couple of minutes. The doors rolled open. "Chief mate, on deck." "At ease," Harbin said. Approaching the captain seemed to be fixed upon the window before them, looking out into the dark abyss that was before them. "Captain, this is a strange sight." "Indeed, it is, Harbin. Come, take a closer look." As Harbin approached where the glass window was, peering over, he saw on the deck, down below them, into that great abyss, the lights shining on a wreckage. The ship. "Indeed, Harbin, indeed. Seems we found the old sucker. Fallen straight to the edge of this chasm." Indeed, it was a chasm. But that was in itself an understatement. It was an abyss. Just at the edge of where the reef was a great sloping dip. The first edge of it did not slope terribly, but as you looked deeper and deeper into the darkness, it seemed to have a steep fall at a certain point into the dark, watery depths. Harbin shivered for a moment. He had never seen something so vast and so unknowing. "Well, that's quite the sight, Captain." "Indeed, Harbin, indeed. But take a closer look at that wreckage. Look at the proportions, the destruction. Whoever got to this ship tore it apart piece by piece." Indeed, as Harbin took a closer look at it, he could tell that the ship was torn to shreds. "What do you think it was, sir? Maybe a whale got caught in the engine?" No. It must have been a ship. New kind of technology. I believe that they have heard rumor of our technology, and perhaps That's a bit of a stretch, sir. We don't even know of any rumors that would imply... Well, we have heard some, haven't we? Perhaps they've gotten information on our sub? I would not be surprised if some pirate had come up with a crude machine. Something to tear apart ships in just a matter of seconds. But it is nothing compared to the Aestallor Deep. No. The captain looked up, with a strong and proud look of zeal. Yes, this is our destiny. Our manifest here will be able to take on anything that the enemy throws at us. Now, Harper, I want you to inform the crew we will be engaging in tight maneuvers. Tight maneuvers, sir? Yes, we're going ghost. Ghost? Harbin had remembered this strategy known as the ghost maneuver. It was one where all lights went off even, with only a near soft red light slowly fading in and out in the rest of the sub. It was a tight and maddening sight. To be inside the sub with the red lights slowly going on and off with a monotonous look. It made much of the crew tense and very, very on edge. Well, Captain, I don't know if we need to engage in such maneuvers yet. The enemy could still be around, Hopper. I can feel it. I feel it in my shoulder once again. That feeling, that tingle, that something is nearby. We must trust it, and I also trust what Quinn has been able to find. Harbin remembered the new navigational officer and turned to his left. And what is it that Quinn has found? Quinn Hill turned around, peering back at the chief mate, and said, Well, we've discovered a couple of, signatures. On the radar, sir. On the radar? How big? What kind? Well, sir, strange. It's been between small and large, but we've only seen it on the edge of the screen. It would appear that whatever it is out there, moving away from us. Well, Captain, I suppose with a ghost strategy we could outflank the enemy and catch them unawares. Indeed, Harper. You're starting to see the same way as I do. Now, we have no time to waste. We must engage the enemy. Fall forward, Sergeant. Fall forward. The sub began to move. Fall forward, an indication that it was moving at full speed ahead. And engage in ghost mode. Yes, sir. The sergeant turned to the intercom, announcing to the entire crew.
Ghost mode is being engaged. Repeat, ghost mode engaged. All crew report to battle stations immediately. Officer Downs, please report to main deck for further instruction.
The sirens wailed off. The lights grew dark, and the red, crimson light, like a ghostly light, began to fade in and out. The sub moved at a great speed, going deeper and deeper into the dark murkiness. Begin to descend 40 fathoms. 40 fathoms, sir. The descent was long and tedious. Harbin could feel the weight of the dark depths pouring upon him. He had never gone this deep. In the past few months that they had been traveling, he never imagined that they would go into a dark abyss such as this. He could feel small drops of sweat building on the top of his forehead. His hair tingling slightly, he felt the great presence of an endless void. Well, Captain, I think we've descended enough. Yes, you're probably quite right. Stop the descent, Sergeant. Aye, Captain. The sub slowed. It continued forward. No lights, only radar. Quinn, anything? The officer looked at the scanner and turned back to the captain and said only, "Nothing yet, Captain, but I'll keep you posted." "Very good, very good." The doors rolled open. There, standing with a look of concern, was Officer Downs. Hobburn approached him first. "Officer Downs, what's the report on the crew?" Officer Downs did not reply immediately. "Officer Downs, what is the report on the crew?" Hobburn looked at him with a look of concern. After a moment, Downs replied, "Very good. The crew is fine. They are excited to engage in combat with the enemy." Captain Talos turned around, approaching Downs for one of the first times in over a week, replied, "Ah, wonderful! Excellent, even. We'll engage that enemy with the full might and honor of the crew at our side. I'm very grateful for you, Officer Downs. Now, I wish to inform you on our strategy. We will be making tight maneuvers, quick around the enemy. And have you happened to see this enemy?" Officer Downs, clenching his teeth. The enemy we have seen on radar, of course. I would not prepare us for nothing. Plus, we have the firm intuition of both me, Officer Veld, and Hobburn. I believe that we will be able to push through and find the enemy deep in these dark waters. Dark indeed, Captain. But have you ever thought to question that maybe it's just a whale or something else? The captain looked at Officer Downs with a look of displeasement. "I dare say, Downs, are you questioning my authority? Are you questioning the legitimacy of this maneuver? This has been suggested by the scientists and engineers of the Union. You are questioning not only me, but you are questioning the Union." Officer Downs looked away, looking back with his own form of displeasement, hiding it slightly with a smile, said, "Well, Captain, I dare not oppose the Union, nor you. I simply wish to know if we are even prepared for an actual battle, or if we are prepared for it. Now, I will leave you in the good companies of Chief Mate Hobburn. And if you have any other concerns like this, bring them to him. I have greater matters to deal with." The captain quickly turned away. Hobburn, looking towards Officer Downs, looked displeased. "May I speak with you, Officer Downs, outside of the main deck?" "Of course, Chief. You have my word on that." They stepped outside. The doors closed. "That was a foolish thing to do." "No, that was not a foolish thing to do. A foolish thing to do is to let your own friend get walked over by the captain and not have any defense over it." Hobburn grew quiet. He did not realize that this was as rude as it was. He always believed in respecting the captain, higher authority, questioning it with a more subtle and soft approach. He was never one to initiate conflict between that of the higher. "I am sorry, Downs, but I don't want to cause a stir between my own officer and my own captain." "All right, hide behind your shell like a turtle. I've been talking with the crew. They're not ready for this. Going into a dark chasm without lighting. Even though we lose an element of surprise, we would feel much more comfortable if... I know. I too am a bit concerned. not imagine we would be going out into these deep or dark of waters. Then why did you side with him? Why would you let me get walked over by the captain? As Hawburn thought, he glanced over to one of the nearby windows. The only thing lighting the dark abyss before them was the faint light from the surface, and as well the red, crimson light of the sub. Well, as he continued to look out that way, he saw something. Movement. He couldn't tell if it was the same shape or the same movement as that man he saw in the waters before. But he could tell that whatever it was, it moved quick, and something about it was large. Downs took notice. Turning to the window as well, he said, What? What did you see? What are you glaring at? Hawburn, gathering his senses, turned back to Officer Downs. It was nothing. Just some kind of plankton or something. I see what's going on here. You won't admit that this is a bad idea. Look at you! You're as scared of the darkness as our crew! Come now, Hubbard. Come to your senses. You can feel it. This is a bad idea. We need to persuade the captain to turn the sub around. We didn't find the wreckage. We did find the wreckage. Hubbard interjected. You found the wreckage? Yes, we did. Then what are we still doing out here? The captain believes that we could engage the enemy. He wants to see if they have a new form of technology. A new form of technology? Why in all of the dark abyss would we be looking for a new technology? What did he even think there would be a new technology? He believes that one of the pirates attacked the ship, and that they used some kind of new technology, because the ship was mangled in a way. Mangled? Downs inquired. Yes, mangled. It was in such a way that it looked torn to bits and shreds. Bits and shreds? What kind of machine could do that? I do not know. But I trust the feeling, you trust the feeling of the captain, who is putting us in more danger with something we don't understand, in a sub that we've never used before, and now he wants us to engage an enemy that could be who? A pirate? I don't think the pirates are even smart enough to come up with something that could mangle and shred like a beast. We've never even been in the depths of these waters. Hawburn, look at me and tell me that you think this is a bright or even smart idea. Hawburn grew silent. All that could be heard was the sounds of the aching of the metal of the sub, the drifting of the waters. When he looked back at Downs, with as much courage as he could muster, he straightened his face and replied, Officer Downs, I need you to rally the crew and get them prepared for combat. If we are not going to make this maneuver right, then we will fail. I don't care what we face out there. I will speak with the captain, but for now I need you to keep the crew at a good and steady pace, ready and with good judgment. Downs, looking at Hawburn with disbelief, turned away and said, All right, Chief. I will go and inform the crew. Downs walked down the corridor, leaving Hawburn in silence. And as Hawburn looked out the window, he contemplated the idea. What could really be out there? What are they up against? And how long will it be till this ends? Several hours had passed since he had spoken with Officer Downs. Standing next to the captain, he had hoped that perhaps the captain would come to his senses and depart from this mission to hunt for something they knew not, this mission that had no true fate, no true understanding of what was to come. It was an unknown, but what was most frightful was the unknown they dwelt in. So, there is still nothing to be found on the navigation's report, Auburn spoke up. The captain, looking a bit frustrated at Harburn, said, "That does not mean that the enemy is not out there. I know these waters, I know them well. Even in the deep, I can tell there's something about here. Something moving, something plotting, something..." Just then, the navigations detected something. "Sir, there's something on the radar." "What?" "Yes, this must be it. Auburn, prepare yourself. We're about to engage in combat." "How large is it?" Held, looking at the scanner, looked tightly. It's quite large, sir." "How large?" 2, maybe 3 times larger than our own sub." "A war vessel," the captain said. "Yes. This must be it. The secret weapon of the enemy." "Sir, might we investigate before we engage?" "Perhaps." Officer Held, keep a close eye on it. Inform me of its maneuvers and its position. If it changes, let me know at all times." Aye, Captain. "Seems to be on our port side, sir." "Port side? Very good. We'll prepare the torpedoes for an angular shot towards the port side. Sergeant, inform the crew." Aye, Captain."
Report. All crew, man your stations, man your stations. Prepare torpedoes for port side fire. Weapons room, reply that you have received message.
For a moment, nothing came back. Then, after a minute, a message was replied.
Aye. Torpedoes prepared.
Very good. Wait for command.
Aye.
"Captain, weapons room is informed." "Excellent. Now, where's the target moved?" "Still same position, sir. Moving slightly to the left, slightly to the right." As maneuvering skills, I see. As long as they don't have the radar technology we have, we should still be in a good, tight position. Auburn looked at the captain with concern. He could see that this was an exciting moment for him. He thought for a moment that perhaps the captain was becoming too involved with this entire situation. So, would it not be wise, perhaps even prudent, that we get clarification on what the target is? It could be a whale for all we know. Or it could be a squid. I don't care. We are going to engage the enemy. I don't like taking chances. Now, if you're with me, stand with me in this hall. If you're not, then you may, or you are invited to stand outside as we engage the enemy. Auburn, almost considering the thought, instead replied, Aye, Captain, I shall stand with you. Very good, Auburn, very good. I had hoped you would say such. Now, let us engage the enemy. But before they could make a move, suddenly, a flash of light could be seen in the darkness. What was that? Harmbird said. I do not know. Perhaps it was a... Or maybe a... The captain did not share his ideas or his thoughts out loud. It was as if the captain had had a secret council within his mind, thinking of all the possibilities, all the ideas of what the flashing could be. Beacon, maybe? Captain, what are you thinking? Moment, Hobbit. Must think. Another flash of light. Then another. Sir, it's moving around us. The enemy is moving around us on the radar. Coming from port side towards starboard side. Starboard side. Yes. There. Quinn, continue to give us information on it. Sergeant. Yes, Captain. Prepare our missiles. Change the status. Give them full coordinates, as Held gives them. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Battle stations. Enemy is engaging.
The flashes of light continued. All around they began to flash more and more, repeatedly, almost like a hypnotic glow, and they went around the sub, hitting around starboard side. Hobben noticed one particular thing about the flashing. It seemed to still be at a far distance, whatever it was, and as it moved, it seemed to move with a great and powerful speed. Held continuously said where its position was, and eventually informed them that it had reached the backside near the rear of the sub. Turn the sub. We must also prepare for its maneuvers. The enemy will not give us a second chance. A knock came from the doors. Arvin, go check what that is. Cannot be disturbed. We're in the midst of combat. Aye, Captain. Arvin turned away. The doors rode open. He entered outside, and as they closed, he could not believe what he saw. A group of around 50 men standing right outside the main deck, out in the large hall. Standing at the front of this large group of people was Officer Downs. His hair was even more unkempt than before, and he seemed to have been sweating quite a bit, for his face was shining in the red light. Auburn, Stance, we need to talk. Downs, there's no time for this. We're in the middle of combat. One of the crew members spoke up. We're not gonna fight that devil. Here. Aye. We're not fighting. No, that devil will not engage us. We must turn back. More crew members began to speak up. Downs, settling them as much as he could with his shaking hands, said, Look here, Stans. We have been talking. Me and the crew. We need to turn back. There's something out there in those waters. Harburn, with both disbelief and shock, looked at Trepper, and he began to see it. He realized that Downs was beginning to believe in the superstitious babble that the entire crew had been talking about. Downs, don't tell me that you have been... Yes, Harburn, and don't give me that look. You haven't seen what we've been seeing. We see it moving around in the dark. Something big. And now there's that flashing, that ghostly light. Harburn, you haven't been back to the hall. What's been going down in the hall? Men have been going mad. What are you talking about? Harburn, still with disbelief and a small air of sarcasm, spoke to Downs as if he were a child. Don't tell me, Downs, that you've been seeing ghosts in the water. You've seen them too! You've seen those creatures, those things moving in the water. Hobburn, taken aback by the sharp, shrill tone of Downs, and as well as the call-out of him having seen things moving in the waters, he began to realize that perhaps he did need to take a look at the main hall. All right, Downs, calm yourself. Show me what you and the crew have been seeing. Downs, slightly excited, but also worried, led the way back to the Great Hall. The main hall was a large chamber. It was where the mesh hall was combined with also a bit of a counseling, where the captain would give speeches, the men would prepare all of their armaments, and get ready for either combat or their next phase on their mission. However, it had now become less of a mesh hall, or even a fine hall, and had become a crazed one. The tables were flipped over, chairs knocked, and all over, people were wandering around, murmuring to one another. But specifically, there were those in the corner, drawing with their fingers onto the walls, trying to draw strange symbols and abstract shapes. Hobburn took one look, began to realize the state of the crew was very disorganized and very concerning. Downs, what in the name of all that is mighty is going on here? You don't know what it's been like, Hobburn. We've been seeing things. The men over there have been seeing them. Just go take a look. Go ask him. You'll see. Hobburn, frightened at the idea of even approaching that man, was too much to bear. His stomach twisted, his eyes fixed upon the man in the corner. There were a few, but this particular man looked quite mad. His hair was disheveled, his clothes ripped, and on the wall a strange red color was being painted by his finger. Hobburn approached. He carefully stepped forward, and he recognized the man. It was a sergeant he knew by the name of Snow. Sergeant Snow, he asked. Are you all right? Sergeant Snow, it's Chief Mate Hobburn. Is everything all right? Snow turned slightly, with his right eye glazing over his shoulder. It looked bloodshot, as if he had not slept for many, many days. Hobburn. Yes, it's me. It's me, Snow. Don't you remember? Hobburn, he continued to say. Hobburn. Yes. It's me, good man. Come along now. There's no need to be hasty. I'll help you with this. We can go to the medical bay and... Then he saw it. Snow turned his face a bit more. He saw half of his face scarred. Slashes over his left eye, where his eye at least should have been. Now just a mingled bloody spot. And the rest, his cheek, cut and carved, with scars left and right, vertical and horizontal. It was a frightening sight. By all that is... The sergeant jumped right upon him and began to tear at the collar of his coat, holding and ripping and pulling and ripping. Ah, Hobburn! Hobburn! Hobburn tried to shake him off. Get off me! Get off, Sergeant Stowe! This isn't you! The crew, coming to their senses, broke through their fear and pulled off Sergeant Stowe, pinning him against the wall and trying to calm him down. It's all right, Sergeant Stowe. It's all right. Hobburn. Chief Mate Hobburn stood up slowly, turning to Downs, who helped him up
said. "Can't you see? They're going mad, sir." The flashing of the light. He took one look at it, sir, and he's been acting like this. He went off into the corner and began flashing at his face. We tried to stop him, but he cut a few of the men. And the men he cut went mad too. They ran off to their rooms, or they ran off to the other corners of this room. And they've been doing odd things, sir. Hobburn took more notice at the shapes and symbols that Sergeant Snow had been drawing with his finger. They were odd shapes, squiggles and lines, circles and dots. Nothing really to shake over about. But the one that was the quite the most eye-catching was that of a slithering shape. It was almost like that of an eel, long, but it had lines coming out of it, tendrils even, and something about it looked quite menacing. Hobburn, lost for words, turned towards Downs' face, who was panting, frightened, and pale as snow itself. "Officer Downs, I need you to get this crew back in shape. We cannot be going wild and mad. The more frightened we become, the more that..." It echoed throughout the chamber. The entire crew looked around at the shop, as it echoed through the harsh metal. "What was that?" Hobburn said. And in one motion, the sub slightly tilted. Hobburn rushed to the main deck, panting as he did. He could not believe what he had just encountered, nor the noise that he had heard just a moment ago, but rushing as quickly as he could to get to the main deck. He came to the doors, they rolled open, and as he entered in, he saw the captain fixed to the window, calling out different commands and preparing missiles to be fired. "Prepare them right away! We are so close, and..." He noticed Hobburn had entered in. "Hobburn, we are very close, very close. As you can see, the enemy is caught unaware. Held, give him the report." Just before Held could say a thing, Hobburn spoke up. "What in the blazes is going on?" "Hobburn, we are engaging the enemy. We have just informed the weapons division to prepare 3 torpedoes. 2, sir." The sergeant spoke up. 2, yes, 2. We are going to fire 2 torpedoes towards the enemy. The flashing is getting closer now. They have exposed themselves. It must be some form of a beacon. Perhaps they're calling for reinforcements, but we will down them before they can get their allies to them. Sir, I must inform you. The crew is what? If it is not something quite dangerous or too concerning, then I report to you, Hobburn, to keep silent. It is time. Held, give me the report. The enemy is... Held grew silent. It was a frightful time, for he did not speak for several minutes. The captain, growing impatient, spoke up. "What? Yes? Tell me." "Sir, he's vanished. The enemy has vanished. On the radar." "Impossible. Stealth technology, perhaps. Something odd. Something quite like that." The flashing as well had stopped. Everyone had taken notice inside the room. It had grown quite silent. Hobburn, approaching the captain slowly, put his hand on his left shoulder. "Captain, the crew is going mad. You must..." No, wait, Hobburn. Don't you hear it?" They heard it again. Echoed through the waters and throughout the sub. Rushing could be heard outside, and banging on the door.
What is it now? Helen, get those men under control immediately!
The doors rolled open. Downs and several other men rushed in.
Captain, you are gonna turn this sub around right now!
He pointed a small hydroplasma pistol up towards the captain's head. He clicked the back bolt of the gun, engaging the energization of the water inside.
Turn this sub around, Captain, or I'll be forced to take drastic measures. Downs, pull yourself together,
Harbin said. Harbin also began to notice something about Downs. His face was not only pale, but it looked more thin than usual, and his eyes looked tired, beatly tired, but he could not tell why. As he looked at Downs, he put up his hand and said, "Downs, reason, good man, reason!" The captains interjected, however, and broke the almost peaceful tension.
No, I will not be undermined. Soldiers!
The two soldiers guarding the chamber came up with their guns, rifles, pointing them right at the few men had entered into the main deck.
I will not be undermined by a mad crew. We will pull ourselves together and...
Another flash of light, closer to us, and the lights went out. All the technology turned off. Even the guns did not quite work as they used to. Oh, there it is! There it is outside! The light flashed again, but towards the starboard side. All of the men in the chamber fixed upon it.
No, it's the enemy. They're circling around us. They're going to attack us.
They must have some form of technology to take it all out.
Hear yourself, Captain.
Technology? This is not an enemy flank ship.
Sir, this is an Eldritch horror.
This is the dark abyssal being. He's come to kill us. Harbin looked straight at Downs, in utter disbelief. He felt the despair inside his heart. He could not believe the words coming from Downs' mouth. Downs, no, don't give in to the madness. The madness has taken us all. If we don't act, it will take the rest of this crew. It's already taken the captain.
Madness? This is what's been going on, Harbin.
You can't control the crew. Sir, I've been doing my best.
You haven't been doing enough.
This crew is undermined and unmanaged. They've been talking about dark gods, evil abyssal beings. It does not matter. I will get this crew back together. The technology began to flicker back on. Perfect. Now, Sergeant, fire 3 torpedoes. Held, lock on. Held turned the key. The sergeant ordered the armory.
Fire weapons. Fire them now. 3 torpedoes. Fire.
Silence. Then they glowed in the darkness, the hydro energy powering a great bright blue. And as they trailed off, they went silent. Held had counted each second, but when he had dropped to 0, no impact. It should have hurt, Captain. I swear it. We should have detected it on the radar, and I cannot. I don't. They must have maneuvered around us. They must have. The armor, Captain. Downs spoke up. It's clear you don't even know what's happening. Clear that. Wait. The flashes of light, no longer on starboard side. They were on the port side. They had moved all the way in a matter of seconds. The captain said. Harbin, leaning in, looked out the glass window. I'm not sure, Captain. Quinn, what do you see? Quinn, in utter shock, did not reply. Quinn, answer me now, boy! There's nothing on the radar, sir. There's nothing. The flashes of light grew all around them, longer, larger. The flashing went on and off, and brighter and brighter. The crew, getting tight and tense, grew closer to one another. The captain, sweating, said, No, it can't be. No, it cannot be. He began to feel it, all of them beginning to feel it. Harbin growing tight, clenching his fists, all of them in great disbelief. They screamed. The flashing stopped. Silence. All of them looking out the window. And then at each other. And then back at the window. Harbin said, I think whatever it is gone. Yes. The captain spoke up. Perhaps it was a warning from the enemy. A warning? Downs, getting angry. That was not a warning. Thank goodness it's gone. Finally. Well, we will head back to the surface. Please now get us to... In an instant, the sub crashed, and all of the crew was dead. The flash of light illuminated the entire sea. The thing destroyed the Aestallor Deep, and with it, the crew. Not far off, viewing from a safe distance, two fish-like people swam in the water. The lower half of them was that similar to that of a shark or a dolphin. The upper back with a small spinal dorsal fin. Their hair was long, blackish and oily. Their eyes a rich, acidic green. Their skin a dark blue with rivet knit white blue stripes. And in each of their hands a trident and net. The two looked at one another. One with a thin, long face. It looked much older, more experienced. The other, a rounded, chiseled face, young and broad and strong.
It is a shame they came this far, and they lost their lives,
the older one said to the younger.
I think they were foolish to have come this far. Now, let us begin the hunt.
No,
The older said.
it would be unwise while it is engaged in its hunt.
Why do you say this? Why would it even attack these poor, foolish surfacers?
Brandis had been in these waters all of his life, since he was young pike. Being the older, more wiser, and experienced Promonthian, He knew well that the great leviathans in these deeps used their unusual tactics to hunt their prey.
You must be careful, for this Leviathan uses a very powerful technique.
Explain.
Well, this Leviathan will flash light in order to confuse its prey.
As a way to hypnotize?
No, to destroy it. This will cause it to go crazy in the water, as you might say. Wander around, and then it will begin to walk.
I see. Thou hast spoken well, great Pike.
Indeed.
The Promonthians moved closer, and as they got closer, they spoke up.
For these surfaces, they may think that this is a god. The gods are much worse than these creatures. Prepare your trident. The hunt will soon begin.
Indeed. The hunt will soon begin.
Gortys, being the younger, prepped his trident and his net. The net had sharp metal hooks upon it, and it was large enough to get a large whale. But he would have to use it strategically against a creature like this.
Now, as we spin towards the waterman, prepare your trident.
I know. I have done this before. This will be my 5th kill.
The Plybithia was one of the greatest hunts known by the Promonthians. It was a hunt to prove that you had come of age for both male and female Promonthians. It was truly a sight to see, but though he had killed several creatures before to prove his worth, it was on his 5th out of 6 kills. If he were to take down the Waterman, he would have to be ready.
Now, by the rights of all, we begin the hunt.
We begin the hunt.
For many who dwell in the deep, Leviathans are nothing more than great predators like a lion or a tiger or a bear in your world. But in their world, the true frightening horrors lie even deeper in the darkness, in places where no one goes. But out here, this was a usual hunt. But for the people of Tellurian, who had traveled deep in their sub, the Aestallor Deep was nothing more than prey for a great beast. For in the unknown, some things may appear as far worse than they truly are. To one, they may be an awful and evil being, and to others, they are simply creatures of prey and predator.